everyone, good evening and thank you for joining us. My name is Esther Ikubaje and I'm the campaigner for Amnesty International in Nigeria. It's a pleasure to have you join us wherever you're watching all across the world. You're welcome to a live session on the rights to freedom of expression in Nigeria. We're so happy to have you. And just to let you know that Amnesty International is a human rights organization where we work to ensure that every human being enjoy their human rights. Of course, we're a movement of over 10 million people across 120 countries of the world. And this evening, of course, we would like to talk about a very engaging topic, which of course borders on the right to freedom of expression in Nigeria. This evening I have a very important personality who will be joining us to discuss how to confront the various attacks that we've seen in Nigeria, particularly when it comes to enjoying the right to freedom of expression. In the past few months, a lot of developments have taken place. And of course, they are not pleasant developments. They are worrying in terms of their state and the patterns that we've seen as a human rights organization. And that's one of the reasons why we decided to look for ways to mitigate some of these challenges that are confronting the right to freedom of expression in Nigeria. Just to let you know that a few months ago, Amnesty International Nigeria launched a campaign to amplify the voices of people like you and I who speak out against oppression, who stand up for justice. The campaign is tagged Talk Your Truth campaign. And of course it says, express yourself. We'd like to encourage Nigerians to express themselves, irrespective of the circumstances surrounding the right to freedom of expression in Nigeria. We owe ourselves a duty to keep speaking out, to keep engaging, and of course to ensure that the right to enjoy the freedom of expression in Nigeria, the right is not being suppressed. We are human beings and we have a right to express ourselves. And that's one of the reasons why we will be taking up this issue and of course exploring all the avenues possible with which we can freely express ourselves as human beings in Nigeria. This evening, I'm going to be joined by a human rights activist who's very vocal when it comes to the issue of freedom of expression in Nigeria. He's a writer, he's an author, he's also an activist. And we're going to be exploring this topic together this evening. But just before we bring in our guests, I'd like to just walk us through the recent developments, which of course many people who are watching from other parts of the world may not be conversant with. But of course, as Nigerians, we can relate to all those developments. It's exactly 2 months and 5 days today that Twitter, the microblogging app, has been banned in Nigeria. Also, we've seen the rising attacks on the media. Just a few weeks ago, we saw on the front pages of many of the dailies in Nigeria a huge campaign where they all published an advertorial that says information blackout. And it's all about the fact that the media also were at the receiving end of some of the attacks against the right to freedom of expression in Nigeria. And we saw how the media launched this campaign, and of course they said no to information blackout in Nigeria. Also, we've seen arrests of young people who just freely express themselves. Of course, we're all aware of the case of the Dunamis 5. These were young activists who wore anti-president t-shirts, and of course they were arrested and detained until just last week when they were freed from detention. These are some of the cases that we've seen in the last couple of months, which of course speak to the rising attacks on the right to freedom of expression in Nigeria. You will agree with me that there is need to keep on engaging. There is need to keep on ensuring that we continue to do all that we can to make sure that our right to freedom of expression is not suppressed. We need to speak out. We need to stand up for our rights. As a singer once said, that we all have to stand up for our rights. We have to get up. It's not a time to sit down. Without much ado, I will be bringing on my guests this evening, and we will be talking about these issues. But just before I do that, I'd like to encourage all of our viewers and everyone joining on this chat. If you have not been following Amnesty International in Nigeria, please follow us on our Twitter, on our Facebook pages, and also on our Instagram platforms. Feel free to join us, and you can also sign up to become a volunteer. You can sign up also to become a member of Amnesty International. If you go to our website on www.amnesty.org.ng, of course you can sign up there. We also have several petitions that go online. We have several actions. We have several petitions that we have put up on our website where you can go take action in support of those whose rights are being attacked all across the world, not just in Nigeria alone, but of course you can find several of those cases there. And I'm encouraging you this evening to spend some time to visit all these websites and also to visit our online platforms to get the latest updates regarding our activities in Nigeria. Thank you once again for joining us. And while we'll be having the live chat, please feel free to drop your comments. If you've got questions, we would take some of your questions as time permits, and of course we'll respond to some of your observations. Thank you very much. Mr. Dele Farotimi, if you can hear me, please send us a request. Thank you very much. We'll be expecting. So Mr. Dele Farotimi will be joining our Instagram live chat very shortly, and we will kickstart our discussion and engagement. But just to also bring us up to date with some of our activities at Amnesty International Nigeria, of course, we do a lot of work around the right to freedom of expression. We also work around issues of criminal justice, as well as issues of sociocultural rights as well, economic and sociocultural rights, which of course we look at the right to education. We also do a lot of work around sexual and gender-based violence, as well as we ensure that we give room to activism and encourage Nigerians to be active when it comes to human rights, being active in terms of taking actions in support of human rights defenders and everyone. Of course, there's a saying that says that we all must ensure that we stand up to protect the right for others. We must stand up for others, we must speak out for them. And part of what we do at Amnesty International goes beyond just documenting cases of human rights violations, but we also do a lot of advocacy and campaigns. As you know, we are a campaigning organization, and we ensure that everyone enjoys their rights as given their fundamental human rights, of course, as enshrined not just in the Constitution of Nigeria, but also by international human rights instruments. Thank you once again for joining us. We're happy to have you, and we're really hoping that this evening will be a great time to engage and to find ways forward to ensure that the right to freedom of expression in Nigeria is enjoyed by everyone. Thank you once again. We're expecting our guests to join us very shortly, and we will kickstart the program. Thank you, Barrister Dele Farotimi. Thank you so much. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you. I've been with you since you started.
Thank you so much for joining us on time, and apologies for just bringing you in now. So our viewers, we have in the room with us this evening an activist. He's an author, as I earlier mentioned. He's also a human rights defender, very vocal and passionate about a better Nigeria. So Barrister Dele Farotimi, I must say that it's been the murky waters when you talk about the right to freedom of expression in Nigeria. So I'd just like to take you on that to ask, how have you been navigating these murky waters of rising attacks on the right to freedom of expression in Nigeria?
Good evening, Esther. How are you doing, sis? It's nice to be with you. Let me say this, and we should all lose any doubt we might have about this. There is nothing new about where we are right now. We've been here all through my entire lifetime. Whether Nigeria has been under the reign of the military, or even though it's been the last 22 years of democracy, what has happened consistently is that the Nigerians have never been given his rights. That we're even speaking to being given rights should be sufficient to tell us about how low we are falling if we're talking about being given rights. You don't give rights to citizens. Citizens have rights that are neos to them. It's part of who they are. It is the reason why they are citizens. Human beings have rights that are inherent to them. It is why they are properly called human beings. The problem is that the Nigerian has never been treated as a citizen within the Nigerian space. So each time that he is dealing with the Nigerian state, he is constantly begging to be treated as a human being would be treated. So it becomes necessary to speak to his human rights because he is ab initio not dealt with as a human being. So when you ask how I have managed to be negotiating and navigating my way through the evil space we call Nigeria, where human rights and humanities are not respected, what I'll say to you is this. Omoyele Sowore has provided the example we all need to pay attention to. And that example is the understanding that this is who I am. These are my rights as a human being. I will not wait for those rights to be recognized or validated by a third party. I will exercise those rights and allow the third party to deal with me as he believes right in his own view and in the eye of the whole world. Nigeria is not a place where you are going to be given any right. The Nigerian state is designed to take away all of your rights. So waiting for the state to give any right in Nigeria is a waste of time. It must be confronted with those rights. If it now wishes to put it down as brutally as it has always done, so be it. But to wait for the Nigerian state to grant those rights is a waste of time. It has never granted them in my 53 years of being alive. And I don't expect it to start tomorrow. Nobody gives it a la carte. You grab it.
Thank you so much. Yes, you talked about grabbing the rights. Someone once said that rights are not things that are laid on the table for everyone. Just as you rightly mentioned, I think looking at the myriad of issues around the right to freedom of expression in Nigeria, when you look at how activists like Omoyele Sowore, how some are still in jail now, Yahaya Aminu Sharif, also Mubarak Bala, people just jailed for freely expressing opinions that are considered as uncommon to the public. I mean, when we look at this myriad of issues, it's quite a mix at this moment in time in Nigeria. I would say an unpalatable mix that we have.
You know,
How best can we begin to confront these rising attacks against the right to freedom of expression in Nigeria? I mean, and when I talk about how, I mean practical ways. People are talking about mobilization, engagement. I mean, what are the practical ways through which we can do that at this moment in time?
you know, there are times when history teaches us lessons that we on our own might refuse to learn. The travels of Yele Sowore, to a lesser extent, because he never embraced armed struggle. The travels of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, to a larger extent. The tribulations of Sunday Igboho, to another extent, teaches all of us some lessons that we need to learn and learn very quickly. The Nigerian state prefers to isolate persons and then deal with individuals as arrowheads. And in isolating those arrowheads, its plan is always to scatter the flock, strike the shepherd and scatter the flock. However, that tells us something that we all need to pay attention to, and what is actually the kernel of the bullet that will kill this evil system. And what is that thing? The system is afraid of the truth. It is worried about the popularity of the truth. It is scared. But those of us who presume to tell the truth, we have failed to make a very clear connection. And that connection is that you cannot rebel on a people's behalf. You have to educate the people. It is hard work. It's not going to be easy. See, I've been abused and derided for talking. People will tell me, why not lead us into one protest? Why can't you start one movement? And I look at them and I'm wondering, what am I supposed to do that Yele hasn't been doing? What is Yele? What are you asking me to come and do today that Yele has not tried to do? He even offered himself for the presidency. The same people who are asking me to come out and start a movement, they are the same ones who refused to vote for him. They are the same ones who are busy abusing him. Even I have been amongst that number before. Let's be clear. Until the people are connected to the struggle for their liberation, you cannot free them. The Nigerian state and the evil rulers of this land are more afraid of the people than they are of the individuals and arrowheads that they have been persecuting. But the individuals and arrowheads took on a messianic mission, completely forgetting in most cases the need to educate the followership. If anybody should carry Dele Farotimi today, let nobody dare to start saying free Dele Farotimi. No, let them keep me. The longer they keep me, the more they hate my purpose, because you would have to explain the purpose of keeping me. You would have to justify it. That is what we should focus on, mobilizing the people. Some people have talked about the uselessness of setting yourself on fire so that people who are purposely blind might see. I will not set myself on fire for the blind to see, because what is the point? But teach them. That is why I say to people these days, I don't write for people anymore. I'm not writing for this generation. I'm talking to a generation that might be about 50 years from now, who will need to find a way out of this mess. That is the mindset that the Nigerian revolutionaries have to take on. Stop thinking about the here and now. Focus more on building the minds of the followers so that they understand the issues. When they understand the issues, even when they don't understand it in your own lifetime, by the sheer example of your own life and the fact that you have recorded the truth for posterity, both in talking to people, in writing, in your own life, once you've recorded that, Let the system do the worst it can. So when you're asking for deliberate path forward, I will say to you that there will never be a substitute for educating the people, because their enslavement begins with their minds. The Nigerian rulers and the state have promoted all sorts of divisions. You have to educate the people to see the commonalities of their affliction, so that they understand that it's not about the man from the next tribe or the man who does not worship God the same way as they do, but it is a problem that has gone all around the country. When you now unite the people behind the understanding of the issue, what you find very quickly is that you isolate the evil rulers. In isolating them, it becomes easier to find the change that we need. But to think that anyone can do it by sheer force of personal sacrifice and example, without necessarily connecting the people that we presume to seek to liberate, we waste our times. So that critical connect must be bridged. Any other thing that is done without bridging that disconnect is a waste of time. It's a waste of time. You have to bridge the disconnect between the people and the purpose to which you are calling them. You can't call people to a purpose they don't understand. They will be spectators. At best, you are giving them a cycle. So they would appreciate you, they will clap for you. You've charged them emotionally. They are emotionally connected, but there is no content. When you are no longer there, it's done. Strike the shepherd and the flock will scatter. But train the flock. Even when the shepherd falls, another one of the flock will lead the herd. But if you have not trained the people, exactly what do you want them to do?
Of course, you've raised a very serious point there in terms of bridging the connect. Most people will interpret this as citizens' engagement, trying to mobilize people for action. But I want to ask, how can we deepen this? Because I will tell you that individuals, civil society organizations, human rights defenders, we've seen people try to do their best. For example, during the EndSARS protests, we didn't have anyone saying here, she is a leader. It was a joint effort of people like you and I who took to the streets and said, let's end police brutality. So when you're talking about teaching people, bridging the gap between the people and making them know the truth, because we believe that is the truth that will set people free. But I want to ask, in the kind of society that we live in Nigeria, it goes beyond trying to speak known spaces. There are other unknown spaces where engagement needs to happen. You see our political elites do all of that before the elections, during elections. Now we're talking about our own lives. We're talking about the battle for survival, making sure that people's rights are not taken away from them, that their rights are not trampled upon, and that people are able to even assess justice in cases where this happens. How do you do all of this when you talk about this engagement? And I mean, in very informal spaces, for example. In the last couple of weeks, I know I've seen quite a number of engagements on Twitter spaces. I've seen a lot of mobilization even going on, particularly among young people. But of course, I think there are groups that are left out of these kinds of engagements. People who need to be brought into the fold. How are we going to achieve this? What's your take on that?
You see, there is a critical error that the left in Nigeria has made for a long time. One of those is the abandonment of the political space to charlatans. The Nigerian left has never been politically savvy, myself included. What we've done is that we fought and fought, especially in our own youth. All through my university life, all we did was fight the military. All through my youth, all we did was fight the military. We were always fighting pro-democracy, human rights. but we never had clear-cut plans for what to do with power, and we have remained largely reactionary, even in the face of the tyrannical order that has overtaken Nigeria. And that reactionary worldview of the Nigerian left has meant that almost at every critical point in Nigerian history, at every inflection point, instead of being the ones to initiate the action to which the system reacts, we have been the ones who are constantly reacting, and the system has always managed to, they've been able to game us, knowing what we are likely to do. So they have different boxes to fit our many reactions. When they need to bring out carrots, they brought out carrots. So you have a lot of people who are once upon a time at the barricades who are enjoying the air conditioning inside the Asshole Rock today and in so many other parts. So what we've done consistently is that we have failed to initiate. If you ask me, and this is the direction myself and a whole lot of others that I'm aligned with are taking, we're talking to ourselves. And the thinking is that, look, the Nigerian state has already snookered all of us. We've been snookered. Snookered in the sense that they are presenting a situation where it seems like the only viable option open to everyone is to join the secessionist bandwagon, which then makes it easier for them to isolate, demonize, and then delegitimize the genuine grievances that underpins each and every one of the several secessionist arguments across the length and breadth of Nigeria. Now, we could begin to talk about mounting another pro-human rights or pro-democracy movement, but I think Nigeria has moved beyond that. We're getting to the point where we, as a people, would need to draw certain lines in the sand for the Nigerian state, for ourselves. But before you might presume to do that, you need to first of all paint a picture of the alternative that you have in place of the current order. That alternative that you have to, we have to be able to take it to the Nigerian people across the tribes and ethnicities, across the religious divides and regions. Say, look, this is what we can be. This is, everybody agrees that what we are is not what we want to be. At least we, the people, the true people of Nigeria, are represented by that evil document called the 1999 Constitution. The real people of Nigeria are agreed that we are not where we want to be. But the one thing we've never done is to show the people where we do want to be. If you're saying, I know GRI is not a recipe for governance. Yes, you know GRI. So what do you GRI? That one that you GRI, tell the people. Why are we afraid to take our own vision to the Nigerian people? Why are we constantly rejecting, oh, we don't GRI, we don't want this, we don't want that? Why can't we tell the people what we do want? Yes, Nigerian politics has been monetized, but that is because there are no contestations based on ideas. It's PDP, APC now. Showore has tried this. People are saying they didn't follow him. I said that as well, but the question is, have we painted an alternative vision for the people? It's not, you can't guarantee their human rights under this system. Personnel changes. We change nothing in Nigeria. Personnel changes has changed nothing all my life. It's been the same governance system. See, these alternatives that we believe will work, why can't we take those ideas and take them to the people? Why must we play the game the system wants us to play? I'll give you a case in point. I was having a discussion with a dear older friend. There was day before yesterday. And I was explaining to him, I said, look, the path to the restructuring of Nigeria has already been laid down before the southern part that keeps shouting restructuring without ever doing anything about it. Ganduje, the man with the moving bank, the man has shown everybody how to restructure Nigeria in spite of the clear constitutional provision of secularity. The man has a law passed by his assembly, the Kano State House of Assembly, that has prohibited the sale of alcohol, criminalizing it under the Nigerian constitution. So if Ganduje can do that, what stops the Imo State House of Assembly from passing a law demanding that there should be a referendum, not even demanding, organizing a referendum within the Imo State precinct, saying that we want to have discussion leading to self-governance and independence? Why can't that same motion be taken before the Anambra State House of Assembly? Why can't the Enugu State House of Assembly do that? Politics is about number. We've been told that repeatedly. Nnamdi Kanu has sufficient proof, even in prison, to call a shutdown and it happened. Why not translate that? As useless as Nigeria is, I'm not saying that that should be the only road forward, but I'm saying try that first. It legitimizes our demands. By the time you are calling UN and calling everybody, it becomes easier to be doing that when you can say, look, all the houses of assembly in our region have passed the motion asking for this referendum. And we have a referendum at this regional level, and we passed it at our regional level. We want the Nigerian state to allow us to go our way. It does not mean they will answer you, but at least it changes the dynamics of the discussion. We can't keep doing the same thing over and over and be demanding that something else should change. It is the same result you keep getting if you kept doing the same thing. So I'm just saying that we have gotten to the point where we need to weaponize our brains and stop reacting and talking about human rights. I shouldn't be begging anybody for my rights. If I am a citizen, I'm not an indentured slave. Let's take, for instance, you mentioned Twitter. So somebody woke up one morning. The sequence of events are clear. A president tweeted stupidly. The owners of the platform did what they would do to any other user of their platform who fails to obey the rules of usage. I think they deleted the tweet, or maybe they suspended. For whatever they did to him, he deserved it. And then he was reacting to that. And in reaction, like a petty little boy that they collected his sweets, he banned Twitter. They can couch that anyhow they care to couch it. It does not change the fact that that was what happened. And then people are begging him. I'm using Twitter. There's something they call VPN. I discovered the magic after the nonsense happened, and I've kept using Twitter. And I'm waiting for someone to tell me what laws I am breaching by my usage of the Twitter platform. I have a constitutionally guaranteed right to freedom of expression. Useless as the 1999 Constitution might be, it still guarantees me one. Not that I require anyone to tell me, as long as I stay within the bound of legality, the only limit on bridle on my tongue is the truth. If it is the truth, I will say it. Let whoever is pissed because I have said the truth come and arrest me at my house, take me to Kirikiri. They didn't build it for goats. It's not for animals. But once you've kept me there, all you are doing is you are building me the platform from where to call attention to your evil. Because you cannot tell me that I don't require anybody's sanction or license to express my God-given rights. I refuse to submit those rights to an illegal order. It will not happen.
Of course, I mean, when you talk about moving beyond just being reactionary to really take action, I mean, concrete action, and make sure that we put our truths out there. And you've also mentioned the fact that there's need to put out an alternative. I tell you, many Nigerians are really, really, really hungry for alternatives. Of course, they believe in a better Nigeria. They believe that Nigeria can be better than what it is now. But when you talk about giving them alternatives, Oftentimes we see Nigerians looking up to others, just like you rightly mentioned. I've seen some comments on Twitter saying, why don't you do something? People looking up to those arrowheads, of course, and those who are bold, courageous enough to speak their own truth. You see, people try to hide behind such people and say, you lead while we follow. So I think we're at a point in Nigeria where it goes beyond looking out for someone, one messiah, who's going to fight for our rights, who's going to lead the war or the revolution of some sort and give us a better Nigeria. And I really just want to take, I like you to just speak to young people who we've seen demonstrate such an courage when it comes to speaking up. As I speak to you, you still have quite a number of people who are using their VPNs, accessing Twitter, using all the things that I mean, saying their truth and being able to express themselves. But of course, we still have a large number of people. I will just give you an instance. Just before this program this evening, I was having a discussion with my colleague, and he had reached out to someone about being on Twitter, and the person said, "Sorry, I think it's wrong. The government has banned Twitter. Why should I use Twitter?" And you are aware, of course, that there was a judgment of the ECOWAS court saying that the government cannot stop Nigerians using Twitter, accessing Twitter rather. So, I mean, there's still a lot of people who feel like there's this being tied to what people regard to as that kind of fear, the fear of authorities doing one thing or the other. And that really holds people back, because I've heard people say this. Of course, I want to express myself through whatever means, albeit non-violently. I just want to speak my truth. But when I do that, I get attacked, I get picked up, arrested, detained, and nobody speaks for me. What do you have to say to people who are still sitting on the fence? I think that's some of the reasons why we're having this kind of discussion, just to be able to inspire more people that we're at a time where we really can't take the side of silence. The time to sit on the fence is past gone. What do you have to say to such people?
You know, I grew up in Ibadan. And in Ibadan, where I grew up as a child, the dogma was that even if you couldn't fight, if you were as lazy or cowardly as anything else, you must retain the capacity to open your mouth to talk. Yorubas will say that the inability to express oneself is at the root of wretchedness. I have never managed to find the grace to keep my tongue bridled when I see something wrong in my space. And I would encourage all of us to learn to internalize one truth. And that truth is that however long we live, we will die one day. That knowledge should be a conscious knowledge that propels the choices that we make, especially when it comes to our consciences. However long we live, we will go one day. So if you're going to go one day, the only thing that grants you some measure of immortality is for you to keep speaking the truth consistently, because the truth does not die. When you now keep speaking the truth consistently, what happens is that even when you are dead, the truth that you spoke, they will continue to live, and you continue to live on vicariously through those truths. So when people allow themselves to be scared into silence, it comes only from a carnal mind that is incapable of understanding the temporal nature of the life to which they are clinging, which made it impossible for them to talk and which led to their being silenced. That is one. The second thing is, the Nigerian youth are not silent. We are the ones who have failed to purpose them. The difference between anarchy and revolution is the presence of a plan. When you have a plan behind which you have mobilized the people into action, you have a revolution waiting. But when a people are mobilized solely on anger or a single issue protest, look at NSAS for instance. NSAS is the largest protest I have witnessed in my entire life in Nigeria outside of the June 12th protest. NSAS is the largest that I have witnessed. But what did we achieve with NSAS? We were acting reactionarily. Let me break it down. This is difficult for some people to understand, so I will try to break it down so that I might not be misunderstood. NSAS was about a police unit. Kiari's recent tailoring exploit brought it home for all of us, but it was essentially a single issue protest. When it started and gained momentum, a lot of other grievances of the Nigerian people were unheard, and people were latching these onto the NSAS thing. So it became end bad governance in Nigeria, end corruption in Nigeria, end impunity in Nigeria. People began to end all the endables on the back of NSAS. But when you are done demanding the end of something or the other, have you then done anything to explain what you will start at the end of the things you want ended? That thing that you will start when you have ended the one that you want ended is the difference between the revolution and anarchy. NSAS should have taught all of us one key lesson, and that is the fact that it is not enough not to want something. We must of necessity also tell the Nigerian people who we need if things must change. What are those things that we do want if we don't want these ones? You want to end impunity in Nigeria? That suggests that you want the rule of law in Nigeria. So tell the people, what does that your rule of law, what does it look like? Okay, so you want to end bad governance in Nigeria. That's a good idea. So what does it look like when you bring good governance? What is the structure for the good governance you are proposing in place of the bad governance you want ended? These are the things that you can use to connect with the people. These are the things that you have to educate the people on so that they see the critical difference in your own vision and that of the moribund vision of the existing order. If you do not go granular and make these distinctions to the people, Taju, the vulcanizer, will not sit in front of you to speak with you. You are going to ask me questions. I'm going to pretend that I understand the pains of Taju. It's only relative. I'm not going to go to my bed hungry tonight, but I have a duty to speak for the person who will also go to bed hungry tonight. And in speaking for him, I'm saying to you clearly, you want to connect him to these issues, you've got to paint him a new picture of the new reality that you want to bring about. The poorest are the ones who are most worried when anarchy sets in. Remember, Taju the vulcanizer, Wasiu the conductor, Mama Kunle the market trader, each and every one of these people, they feed on a day-to-day basis. So they are the poorest of the poor. When NSAS was in full swing, those were the ones who felt it the most. They couldn't go to their market store. They earn money on a day-to-day basis. And yet, we did not do enough to explain to them why they must make those sacrifices. It is the pain of explaining those reasons to them. It is in their understanding of those things that you can possibly find anything. That is when you can find anything that will help you to be able to connect them. But when you continue speaking over their head, yes, you're fighting for them. But do they understand that? Have they made the connection? They just see you elitist. We are elitist now. Me and you, we are sat down here. We are speaking Dogon Trenchi on Instagram. How many of the people we are speaking for are on Instagram? So we are in an echo chamber where we are constantly talking to ourselves. We are all hearing ourselves. But the people who need to hear us, they are out there. They can't hear this Dogon Turenchi, but where are the pictures we are painting of the future that we want them to connect to? We've got to paint them those pictures. You have to explain to them how the future of their children are being imperiled by the sustenance of this evil order, and how the future of their children will be better served in the future that you are looking to take them to. It's not enough to say you don't want this situation or you don't want this system. You have to go further. Let them know what you do want.
Thank you very much. I think you've really touched on a very important issue there. And I would agree with you that the current conditions where we have found ourselves now, the current situation of things, even make painting these alternatives, I think it makes it easier because everybody can relate to what's happening in terms of bad governance, insecurity, gradually drowning us in Nigeria and the way things are going. So I think it would have been more difficult before now, but the current situation makes it easy for every Nigerian to relate now. You can see the high cost of prices of goods and services, and of course, to compound that, what's going on regarding the right to freedom of expression in Nigeria. And even when people try to express their anger, I mean, you can see what happens to people who try to express their anger. But of course, you said it goes beyond expressing anger now. But we really need to put the alternatives out there. I think that one, I really got that, and I believe that listeners also are following very closely on that. While you were speaking, we had some questions that listeners put up there. Someone says, if you could speak to the authorities, what would you have expected their response to be to the agitations for expression in Nigeria? That's the question someone is asking. What would you have expected their response to be to the agitations for expression?
They've done exactly what I always expected them to do. Crack down. But if you're asking me what I would advise them to do, that's a different ballgame entirely. But what I expected them to do is exactly what they have done. The Nigerian state is a very interesting place. You don't need crystal balls to foretell the future in Nigeria. Let me show you. When they carried Magu, I told everybody, I said nothing will happen to Magu. Has anything happened to him? Nothing will happen to him. When they said they suspended Adisa, I said nothing will happen to her. Has anything happened to her? Nothing will happen to her. But as predictable as Nigeria is, one of the things that has happened to all of us, for which we must be very grateful, is Mr. General, Major General, he never became a full general now, Major General Muhammadu Buhari, is the best thing since sliced bread to have happened to Nigeria. You know, when you women want to, you know those things you put on your face, at the end of the day, you now bring one, you say it's clarifying, you clarify the complexion. Muhammadu Buhari is the clarifying agent in Nigeria. He's helping everybody's eyes to clear. What we now do with what it has helped us to achieve is a function of how well we engage our God-given intellect. How has he clarified issues? Muhammadu Buhari has successfully denuded the Nigerian state in the market square. We now know that beneath all the pancakes, there is a murderous fascist state that is called Nigeria. That fascist state was the one that enabled soldiers to go and kill citizens, peacefully waving its flag and singing its anthem. That was classic Muhammadu Buhari. Even Obasanjo wouldn't do it in Lagos, even though he did it in Odi. He did it in Zaki Biam. He didn't do it under camera lights. He had enough brains not to do it where people could video it. That was Obasanjo. But it's the same powers that Buhari has used. So it's not today that that kind of power has been there. But Buhari was sufficiently stupid enough to do it in open here. So we know. So he has helped us to identify the Nigerian state. Buhari has also helped us to know that our problem is not about corruption. So nobody can come and be saying Nigeria's problem is corruption. We now know it's not. In his own cabinet, there are sufficient thieves to be Ali Baba's friend for 10 generations. So what do we do with all these things that we do now know? Okay. It should be sufficient for us to know that with Buhari's example having been shown to us, our problems cannot be resolved by personnel changes. That is one clarification that Buhari has helped everybody, both his supporters and haters. At least he has clarified that for us. Buhari has also helped us to know that there are no differences between the APC and the PDP. There can be no argument any longer. It's now clear that we are dealing with a class, just one class. Whether that class is good for us or bad for us, we should have sufficient brains to be able to tell now, but it is clear. So to now bring it home, let me just say that we as a people must forswear the easy path. The easy path, the simple solutions are all, you know, when people have become traumatized, as Nigerians have become traumatized, when they say, okay, so what's the solution? Say, break it up. And what's the solution? Divide it. Those are very simple solutions, and they are easier to regurgitate and repeat, but they don't necessarily solve the problems. And some of the things I will say will not make me popular as well, because I'm not going to propose anything simple, because there are no simple solutions here. There are just none. Our parents squandered all the opportunities for simple solutions. It's been squandered. The only thing that is left for us as of today is that we as a people, recognizing that the only way to come out of our mess is to change our systems, our governance structures, we have to reach out across divides. We have to speak with each other. We have to talk to ourselves. We have to move beyond all these our talk shops. We have to eat the streets. We have to go to the people where they are. Some of us, we have so many creatives in this generation. It might be short skits. It might be short skits. It might be, you might have the capacity to educate people. Go to them where they are. Speak their language. It might be in your songs. We have so many people singing. Music has become big in Nigeria, but not everybody is singing with content. It is up to those of us who can reach young musicians, young playwrights. I do my bit to encourage young artists. Encourage them, let them put their content out there to help people change their mindset. Because the beginning of our problem is here. Our minds have been held captive. And if we don't free the minds, we waste our time. We waste our time.
Yeah, indeed, there's need to really look beyond what the reaction of the authorities might be or their response. Like you rightly mentioned, I mean, we all hardly get surprised by some of this response that we get from the authorities. I think people hardly get surprised anymore. And I really like the fact that you talked about reaching out to people across divides. So it's not about violence. It's not about hate care. It's about engaging across divides, cutting through personal interests and the things that really divide us, religion, ethnicity, and all of that. And I think that's really one of the things that Amnesty International always really supports. We're not a religious, ethnic, or political organization. It's just about uniting on that common front on that common cause that unites us all. And that's the cause of justice, which of course has to do with everyone. So another person asked, he said, what is the missing link between the quest for freedom of expression and the disposition of the authorities to it? And I can really relate to the reason why some of these people asking these questions are talking about the authorities, because it's more like people see it like a kind of bargain now. So the authorities dole out their instructions around how you should or should not express yourself. People trying to either conform and find a way around it. Should that even be talked about in the first place, Barrister Dele?
So, my sister, me, I have a bad habit. When a bully is in my neighborhood, I consider it my duty to find his trouble. It is that thing that you have told me not to do, when you lack the authority to tell me not to do it, that I will do. I have a moral duty to disobey an unjust law. It's a moral duty. That you have made a stupid law gives me a moral duty to disobey you. I can understand people worrying about what will government do or not do, but we must get to the point where the government need to start worrying about what we will do or not do. Instead of me to worry about what the government will do, the government need to be worried about what I will do. Because if sufficient numbers of us are refusing to obey stupid laws, how many people are they going to jail? How many people can they jail? If only 100,000 Nigerians will rise up in each city in Nigeria, this government will crumble. But they can't rise up because we've not taught them the basis for rising up. We've not given them anything to rise up for. So this one that people are afraid to express their rights, is it somebody who is afraid to use Twitter that I'm supposed to lead on a street protest? That's the person who cannot even exercise his own free will to use Twitter because he's afraid that a spoiled old man whose ego was bruised by his Twitter suspension has now issued a decree. No, we have a duty to educate them. They have the duty to find their coyones. It's not for me to find their courage for them. It's for them to find their courage. Nobody rebels on anybody's behalf. They need to want their freedom enough to be prepared to lose their lives if need be. It should not be that Nigerians are waiting for some messiah. Who is their messiah? What is wrong with them? I am nobody's messiah, and they shouldn't be waiting for anybody to be their messiah. We have a duty to help them see what they should see. But having seen it, they also have a duty to stand up. They have it is not the duty of the person who has enslaved you to remove your manacles. It is your own duty, conscious of the fact of your enslavement, to yank off the chains. So, yeah, I fully support the idea of liberation. I am all for fighting for people's rights, but you can't fight for the person who can fight for himself. Nigerians need to get to the point where they connect the dots and are willing to stand up to fight for themselves. Enough of fighting for people. You do not outsource revolutions. You don't. They need to stand up.
Thank you so much, Barrister Dele. It's been such an engaging time. And I really like the fact that you made a call to action. Nigerians need to yank off the chains for all those who are listening to us. It's up to everyone. It's up to you. It's up to me as well to yank off those chains that will not allow us to really express ourselves. And I must say a very big thank you to some of our listeners who would still like me to take more questions. We don't have time, but I must say we've really had practical and engaging conversation with Barrister Dele Farotimi. Thank you so much for honoring us with your presence. Thank you also for standing out and for always speaking your truth. Please keep up the good work. Thousands and millions of Nigerians are looking up and are listening to you. And of course, getting inspired by your courage and by your strong determination to always speak up and stand up for the truth. And on this note, I would like to say a very big thank you to everyone who has taken out time to join us this evening. Please, the conversation continues on our Twitter platform. We are tweeting. Please follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram as well. Barrister Dele Farotimi, we look forward to having you some other time. And of course, we hope and we will work towards a better Nigeria. Thank you very much and have a pleasant evening,
Amen.
sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.